The other day, I read a comment from somebody who was talking about passing and why it's so important to them. And so the reason that they gave was that they said if they don't pass, then what happens is their mind starts to destroy them. And so when I read that, I was like, whoa, that's a really intense situation to be in. It's like the amount of pressure that this person is under every single day. That's just a really hard situation. But I'm somebody who's had my fair share of extreme dysphoria, so really I get it. I understand what it feels like to live inside of this. It feels like a prison, and I'm being surrounded by all of these self-imposed standards, and it feels like I'm being held hostage by my mind. And that sucks. It sucks big time. Like the reason I feel like it sucks so much is because within this dynamic, we lose our freedom to choose. And so instead of transitioning because we have got this creative inspiration and we've got this incredible desire for authenticity, well, instead, now we transition in order to like renegotiate the terms of our imprisonment. Do you know what I mean? It's like we've got this mentality that says, well, okay, I'm working on my voice and I'm getting surgery and I'm dressing up and I'm not doing it because I want to, but I'm doing it because I have to. And so now instead of exploring gender from an empowered position where I've got clarity and I'm grounded and I'm compassionate, well, instead I just throw up my hands and say, all right, enough already. Please just make this pain go away and I'll do anything you want. I'll transition, I'll come out, I'll wear that stupid dress. Just please, Dysphoria, will you stop attacking me? So that's the situation that I want to address in today's conversation. How do we shift the emphasis of our gender exploration away from this idea that we're minimizing suffering and then towards this mentality where we're honoring life? And so before we get into that strategy, so first I want to talk a little bit more about why dysphoria isn't going to be the ideal emotion to be guiding your transition or your gender exploration. Now, obviously, dysphoria does have its place within the transgender experience, or, well, at least for most of us, it does, because really in the beginning stages of this journey, I feel like it's really normal for dysphoria to be guiding our efforts. Otherwise, it's kind of like, okay, how else would we know that the current situation isn't working? Does that make sense? So it's kind of like this initial pain of incongruence is coming from life and it's like tapping us on the shoulder and it's saying, hey, it's time to explore. It's time to focus on gender. It's time to take this part of your life a little bit more seriously. But really, regardless of how or when we take those first steps, it's almost always in response to pain. It doesn't have to be, of course, but for a lot of us, it is. And so it's like we reach this breaking point where we finally say, okay, I'm going to do what you're asking of me. I'll explore, I'll transition, I'll come out, I'll do whatever. And so in a way, we are actually being loyal to our pain in those situations because that's where our decisions are coming from. So I think that this is totally normal again, and it's not a problem, but there is a trap in all of this. And so that's when time goes on, but the thing that happens is we stay rooted in these original motivations, avoiding pain, and then we never shift into a more empowered orientation. And so then 2, 3, 4 years down the road, there we are still loyal to our dysphoria. And we're still making decisions based entirely off of this compulsive need to be free of pain. And so it's like we've somehow gotten on this hamster wheel and we're making all of these changes in order to stop the pain. And then we make the changes and then of course the pain shows up again. And then in turn, we have to make more changes. And so we're just caught in this cycle of exploring gender, not because we want to, but because we have to. But again, like I said, pain absolutely has its place in this journey. So I'm not trying to make an enemy out of pain, but instead what I'm trying to do is just highlight this dynamic where we end up remaining stuck in this pattern where pain is running the show. And so that is the situation that I want to address. It's those moments when we think we are walking towards freedom, but in reality, all we're doing is walking away from pain. All right, so let's get into that strategy, which is called, what are you in service to? So, what is most important to you? What are the qualities and virtues that you are loyal to? So, are you doing this because your dysphoria is so intense that it told you to? Or are you doing this because your intuition guided you here? Are you exploring gender because it's too painful not to? Or are you exploring because you have committed to living a truthful life? So now keep in mind that I'm not saying what you should be loyal to, but I am highlighting the fact that whether you are walking away or walking towards, that loyalty, which is kind of the driving force of those movements, that loyalty is going to always be there. So for example, if you're walking away from pain, you're going to be loyal to pain in those moments. But if you're walking towards love, then you're loyal to love. And so even if those two paths are in the same direction and they both are leading you to a transition, still the atmosphere that's surrounding those two orientations, it's going to be completely different. So on one hand, we've got a feeling of being collapsed and afraid. And then on the other hand, we've feel open and we feel hopeful. And so one is pinning you against something bad, and then the other is merging yourself with something that feels really good. And so the beauty of this recognition is that once you identify where your loyalty lies, well, now all of a sudden you have the power to shift the entire emphasis of your exploration. Because really, wouldn't you rather be walking towards something that feels good as opposed to walking away from something that feels bad? I mean, these two orientations are just completely different experiences. So my advice with this one is that possibly consider the theme of your gender exploration. So think about the things that are most important to you. You know, what is this inspirational driving force which is driving you forward? And then as you reflect on this situation, if you happen to come across something that doesn't feel good, well, maybe you could just swap it out for something that does, right? So, for example, maybe you could see your exploration as an act of love and devotion. Or maybe this is a creative unfolding, which is rooted in truthful living. Or maybe you're an ambassador of self-expression and authenticity, or literally anything that turns you on and lights you up. Because this is a huge part of your life we're talking about here. So you might as well be loyal to something that brings you alive. And again, it matters less what the thing is, and it matters a whole lot more like what that thing causes you to feel. So really all you have to do is identify the things that feel good to you and are powerful enough that you're willing to align your energies with them. And then you can just consciously give yourself and give your exploration to those things. And then in those moments when you're feeling dysphoria, which of course it'll still be there, but now you're able to remind yourself of what commitments you've made. So maybe that commitment is to beauty or to love or to peace or to devotion or creativity or freedom or just whatever else. And then from within that position of being aligned with that thing that's lighting you up, now you're able to look at your pain and say, yes, I see you, I hear you, I feel you, but here's the thing, like I'm not actually loyal to you anymore. So yes, I will still embrace you and feel you whenever you come around, but I'm not actually going to be taking your orders anymore because like I have placed my allegiance in something else. And so if you're able to position yourself in that kind of way, you're going to start understanding the difference of living a life that is running away from something versus running towards something. And so if you want to continue cultivating this mindset of an empowered gender explorer, then you should watch this video and I will tell you about how to do just that. All right, that's all I've got. I'll see you in the next one.